Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out the range with the Tech 9. Well, this is a KG99. They went through a bunch of different name changes, AB10, Tech 9, KG9, KG99. But this is an earlier version of the Tech 9 firearm. Now this handgun was popular and somewhat infamous during the 80s. It got a bad rap. You had laws being specifically passed to ban this particular firearm, hence all the name changes. And eventually it just went out of production. But it was a very simply constructed submachine gun that came out of Europe that wound up being sold as a semi-auto here in the United States, and again generating all that hate. But it has a very simple metallic upper, a very simple blowback mechanism, polymer lower, and uses a magazine right in front of the trigger group and gives it that distinctive look with that, you know, barrel shroud. Oh no, not a barrel shroud, just lacking the flippy thing that goes up. But anyway, these firearms, very simplistic. They wound up being, you know, kind of used in pop culture and movies and music videos and things like that. And so a lot of people know what they are just by looking at them. But they're gone. And now my friend over in Switzerland, B&T, Carl, he, like myself, loves old 80 guns like this. And I remember when he was telling me about the P26, which I do have one here this afternoon. That'll be the next gun we show. And the P26 is Carl's take on the Tech 9. Now, there's been connections to the gun we're about to talk about in today's video to other firearms, which we'll bring up later. But I'm going to go with this gun that we're going to talk about in today's video is a lot more closely related to the Tech 9 than anything else. So this gun evolves into the P26 from B&T, then B&T takes that design, sells it to Beretta, and that's what today's video is about. The PMXs from Beretta, a 9mm pistol, very closely related to this gem. And we're going to talk about it, do a little bit of shooting with it, compare it to the P26 and to this gun, show you the differences and similarities, and then talk about just how fun that new gun is to shoot, and that it is. So I'm going to go ahead and charge this up now. Don't get your hopes up, folks. These things are not known for their reliability. Chances are it's going to have a hiccup or two, or maybe just stop working altogether, possibly blow up in my face. I don't know. But the Tech 9 is still a piece of iconic American history for sure. No way! It worked! It's a miracle. 10 rounds. All right, let's take a look at the P26, then take a look at the Beretta PMXs. WOOX is an outdoor gear company headquartered in Hickory, North Carolina. WOOX is the wild child of the Manelli Group, an Italian company started in 1937 and today is considered one of the finest wood machining companies in the world. Distinctive, timeless designs, absolutely superior craftsmanship, real wood, not composite material is what they manufacture things with. They make stocks, chassis, axes, knives, all sorts of cool stuff. Please swing by, check them out at wooxstore.com. This is the P26. This is a polymer upper and lower 9mm pistol that feeds from a magazine that's in front of the trigger mechanism, just like the Tech 9. Has a very simple rudimentary charging handle over here that reciprocates with the bolt, much like the Tech 9. It is a simple blowback mechanism that does not have a telescoping bolt that overrides the barrel. It's just a bolt back here. The barrel's in the front, just like the Tech 9. Now, this one does have a pick rail across the top, pick rail sections on the side. We have a B&T mechanism back here for attaching a stock or a brace, and a fire control system right here. Overall, really nice little pistol. Has a threaded barrel and a tri-lug adapter on this one. And it's just been a fun gun. I've had this thing for a number of years. I think they only made about 400 of these. B&T would do that. They do special runs like this of cool retro type firearms, and then they'd move on to other things and focus on their primary firearms that they use for military law enforcement and civilian sales. So the P26, cool gun, uses standard B&T magazines, just like this. So you're going to find these magazines used across a number of their different products out there. This gun is no different. And charge her up. Nice shooting little pistol for sure. Has nice sights integrated into it, a ghost ring rear, a post in the front. Now you'll notice it locked open on the last shot fired. There's no facilities over here for a bolt release. Has ambi magazine release, one on either side. Also fire controls on either side of the gun. But when you drop the magazine out, put a fresh magazine in, you just grab the charging handle, release it, and charge the weapon. You'll also notice that the charging handle will not go in on this side. There's no slot in the receiver for it. It's just meant to be charged from the left-hand side. I bring this up for a reason. So let's take a look at the next firearm, what today's video is about, the Beretta PMXs. This is it, folks, the new Beretta PMXs. This handgun was developed Definitely along the lines of the Tech 9, and also some folks out there will say that it's related to the M12 Beretta submachine gun. It had 2 pistol grips on it, stamped receiver. It was a very interesting design, but it uses a telescoping bolt that overrides the barrel. This does not, but we'll talk about those differences, and I'll show you a picture of the M12. But some said that this is really related to the M12. Looking at this internally, looking at the KG99 that we'll take apart later in today's video, I think you're going to agree with me that there's just too many similarities to the Tech 9 not to draw a connection between the 2 firearms. And that's not a bad thing. The Tech 9 is a very simple gun. It was just poorly manufactured. This gun is a very simple gun that's extremely well manufactured. So they're not alike in that regard. Now, this firearm also has facilities back here for being able to mount a stock or a brace. So if you want to file a Form 1, turn it into an SBR, you can do that. Now, Beretta, as far as I know, in my last conversations with them, they had no intention, at least at that time, to bring in the proper stocks if you wanted to do a Form 1 and make an SBR out of it. But there are already companies out there making these adapters for braces, so you do have that option. So this is just a brace. There's a strap for the brace right there, and this is all made out of aluminum, so it's really nice quality. Now, across the top, we maintain the 1913 rails, and then we have the rail sections on the side, same magazine in the front, charging handle over here on the left-hand side, but I can take this out during disassembly, move it over here, and now I can run the charging handle on the right-hand side of the firearm. It maintains its ambi mag releases, but it incorporates a bolt release. So I can lock the bolt open like it's last shot fired. I can stick a fresh magazine in the gun, reach up here with my thumb, and drop that bolt. And all improvements that Beretta made to the original design. Now, internally, there's some additional changes that have been made to the gun, but overall, the fire controls are pretty much in the same place, but very few, if any, of these parts will actually interchange between the B&T and the Beretta. One part that does interchange is the magazine. So here's the Beretta magazine, and it's a nice polymer type magazine. Again, it's 9mm. All the firearms in today's video are 9mm. And it inserts in the front of the trigger guard, just like the other guns. Charge her up, and she shoots really, really nice. This is just a fun gun to shoot. Simple blowback. Locks open, that last shot fired, just like I said. Drop the magazine out, put a fresh magazine in. There we go. And in this case, the fresh magazine is going to be an actual B&T magazine. So these parts actually interchange. I'm going to stick the B&T magazine into the Beretta, drop the bolt. So they will work. And the B&T magazines are pretty readily available. These things have been on the market for a long time, so if you have trouble finding some of the Beretta mags, you can substitute B&T mags, and these are of decent quality as well, and you can get bumpers for the bottom to make them even tougher, so if they should be dropped, fully loaded, and all that good stuff. So anyway, let's take a closer look at the PMXs Beretta, compare it to the B26 and the Tech 9, and I'll let you guys be the judge as to if this gun is related to the Tech 9, in this case the KG99, or not. All right, so let's take a closer look at the Tech 9/KG99. Here's my little 80s wonder. I'm gonna pop the magazine out. It has a little mag release down here, kind of like AK style. Check, make sure it's empty. And then to start the disassembly procedure, you have a little pin here in the front that's non-captive. I'm just gonna tap this little pin out. Notice there's a single pin in the front holding it all together. This is critical to my comparison. All right, there's my little pin. Pull forward, and the uppers and lowers come apart to take, and the striker assembly's inside here. And to take it apart, when I pull this little thing out, that striker falls forward. So to put it back together, I'll point this out. I'm not going to show it being put back together, but when you pull back on the striker and then push this little lock in that would lock the bolt in the forward position, that'll lock the striker to the rear so you can get it over the sear notch in the lower. All right, so let that drop forward. Pull this to the rear. Now, some versions would have caps that would screw onto the end. This one doesn't. This is a very early version. They put the caps on there to take some of the pressure off the polymer rear here, which was prone to cracking. So when the bolt would slam into the rear here, it would hit polymer, and they would eventually put the cap on the end here to kind of contain those forces to stop the cracking of the polymer. So you pull back on this, and you'll see an end cap and 2 springs with guide rods in there. I pull this out the side. Now, these are pinned in for the moment, but you can see the 2 recoil springs and the guide rods. Now, this spring is actually the striker spring, not so much the recoil spring. Oops, I knocked my little firing pin out of there. Well, that'll be fun. Another reason why I'm not going to put it together right now. I've got to put the firing pin back in. But it gives you an idea, right? Just a simple blowback. And this sets behind the barrel like that. Does not telescope over the barrel. By telescoping, it means that a part of the bolt hangs over the barrel to increase the mass of the bolt by shortening the overall length of the receiver. So this does not have that. An Uzi would be an example of that. So there's your Tech 9, right? Moving over to the P26, we have a single pin in the front, just like the Tech 9. To take it apart, push this pin out. This one is captive, and it'll have little locking recesses here and in the front. Just kind of push forward, and then it will lift off, okay? And there's your fire control inside the lower. Now this one, you'll notice has that bolt sitting in there, sitting behind the barrel, right? Not telescoping over. This has, very similar to what would be a later modification of the Tech 9s. Unscrew this end cap so the recoil forces aren't impacting back here on this polymer piece. See the similarities? Unscrew this. Out come the two springs and guide rods, very similar to the Tech 9, although one of these is not acting as a striker spring and recoil spring. It's just both these are recoil springs. And then you pull your charging handle to the rear, just like the Tech 9. Pull out the charging handle, and your bolt pops right out. Very similar, okay? So that's the P26. So Beretta either purchased or licensed this from B&T. I'm not sure what the arrangement is, but this definitely is a B&T design. So to take this one apart, I'm going to make sure that it's empty. Once again, we have a single pin here in the front, just like the Tech 9, the P26 before it. It's captive. Pop that out. Locks front and rear, just like the B&T. Push forward slightly, and there you go. So you can see, again, here's the P26 next to the Beretta. Clearly, there's some differences, quite a few differences. So you'll notice there's a little bit more travel back here than on the P26. Notice how the hammers are in two different places when the receiver's aligned in the rear. Shorter throw on the B&T, longer throw on the Beretta. And that's an engineering change they purposely built in. All right, so I'm going to pull the charging handle to the rear after I unscrew the rear end cap. Okay, so this will be very similar to some of the Tech 9s out there, and of course the P26. Now this one has some sling mounts on it that the B&T doesn't have. These are just kind of crimped on the end. You can pull them off, but you see the guide rods in there and the two recoil springs. The end cap, here's the little hook claw adapter for slings. It just kind of sits on the rear here like this, and it also lines up with the claw sling mounts in the front. Okay, this comes off when you disassemble it. Pull the bolt to the rear, pull out on the charging handle, and then the bolt comes out. Now, some basic differences. So let's put the Beretta parts here. I'll grab the B&T parts real quick. I'll lay them out here real quick. All right. So, B&T, Beretta. Notice, like I was talking about earlier, see how the bolt is longer on the Beretta? So there's more throw. It's a longer receiver because they've increased the weight of the bolt, increased the mass, and they've also increased the length. Now, I suspect this has something to do with them tuning it for full auto fire or something like that, because this is intended to be sold to militaries in its military trim, which would include full auto capability. This is a semi-auto. So, yeah, when shooting the two side by side, I don't notice a major difference between the two, but you'll see basic differences, but also similarities. So here's the B&T. You'll notice there's a notch back here, lines up with a piece in the receiver to keep this from rotating. Same thing here. The two recoil springs and guide rods. Notice that the Beretta's springs are much longer. They also have this little, I don't know, the springs are kind of look like screws on the end the way they're turned down. I imagine that's to help assemble it, make it a little bit easier to put those springs into the holes here in the back of the bolt. So very similar. You know, here's the end caps. This is the B&T. This is the Beretta. Slightly different. Again, none of the parts I don't think are really intended to operate between the two. So you might get away with the charging handle. They look very similar. Yeah, might get away with the charging handles and the magazine. So there you go. There's your similarities. So that's a very, very simple mechanism. And overall, it's just that simplicity turns into reliability. You know, both the B&T and the Beretta are extremely well made. The bolt and action feels really, really smooth. The tiger stripe finish on this is one of those finishes that is a special edition that Beretta did. So it has this kind of stylized tiger stripe pattern, but you can get them also with black, just standard black finishes. And I'm sure they'll come out with FDE and green and other polymer lowers and uppers as time goes on. Now you can also see on both the B&T and the Beretta that while they have polymer shells on the outside, inside they have metal bodies that the polymer's setting over, okay? So, and the barrel lengths are very similar. Now, tell me, very Tech 9-ish, no? Very, very similar. So anyway, that's why I say these are more related to the Tech 9 than anything else. All right, let's put these back together, do some shooting with the Beretta, and just kind of focus on it for the rest of this afternoon's video. So the quality on the PMX is really, really nice. Again, all the parts fit perfectly. It's kind of interesting on the B&T, the top rail is polymer. This one is actually metal, so it's roll pin front and rear. If you think of the ARX 100, Beretta did the same thing. Polymer upper, they pinned on a aluminum 1913 rail. So that's what's been done here. So this is actually metal here on top. It's monolithic, runs the full length of the firearm. Then you have these side panels. Now it does come with the hand stop in the box. That's kind of nice, guys, because when you're shooting a pistol like this, you don't want to get your hand out here by the muzzle for obvious reasons. And so that hand stop is a nice touch. It keeps even my long thumbs away from the end of that barrel. The barrel does have a muzzle thread protector on here. It's just smooth. It's not knurled, but it has flats on it for using a wrench. And there's a 1/2x28 thread underneath there if you want to suppress the firearm. Again, simple blowback, so a suppressor is going to work just fine on the gun. A little bit gassy, more than likely. I know my P26 was, but you know that's just kind of the nature of pistol cans and things like that, and high back pressure cans. So the polymer lower has a nice flared mag well. And this is the Beretta magazine. Have some Federal 115 grain ammunition they're going to be shooting. I want to thank our friends over at Federal for supplying the ammunition free of charge to the channel. Been shooting Federal ammunition ever since I was a kid. Love the stuff. Great American company that produces great quality ammunition. So anyway, cool gun, fun to shoot. Just, it almost feels like, I know it's kind of cliche to say, but it feels like the bolt's kind of on rollers. It just moves really, really smoothly. Now you're probably wondering what something like this will cost. And the Tiger Stripe version is $13.99. The just straight black version will start around $12.99. So they're right around $1,300. So it's not a horrible price in today's Bidenomics market, but it's not exactly Tech 9 prices where those things were like $200 back in the 80s. Adjusted for inflation and Bidenomics, it might be closer to $1,300 now because the buying power of the dollar is pretty much destroyed. With all that being said, no more general politics. Let's do a little shooting with this bad boy. So that was the Beretta magazine. 25 rounds, just put a 50-round box of Federal in here. Another 25 rounds in the B&T magazine. Have that bolt release on the left-hand side, which is a nice touch. All right, so really, really smooth. It's a typical blowback, so you're going to have that little bit of punchy recoil, but it's not horrible. And with the brace on it, folds nicely to the side. Just a really, really nice package. So if you're looking for a PCC, a pistol like this with a brace, or even an SBR, this would be a really, really good candidate for a 9mm firearm. I like simple blowback because it's so reliable, and it's just basically easy to take care of. If you get into a little bit smoother shooting guns like roller delayed, MP5 clones like the AP5 and stuff like that, they're going to be a little bit smoother in the recoil department, but you go up in complexity and parts, which kind of reduces the allure, if you will. I always think of PCCs and 9mm submachine guns and things like that as being very simple firearms, and that's kind of the draw to them for me and many others. So overall, great quality, nice shooting gun. Seems to be well thought out. The ergonomics are nice. I know some folks are going to complain because you can't put an AR-15 grip on here, but it feels really good. I have big hands, and it feels good to my hands, and I can see how it probably feel good with somebody with smaller hands as well. I like the complete ambi nature of the firearm. Seems like they did some pretty nice improvements to it. So yeah, I do like the PMX quite a bit. I was a big fan of the P26, so it only stands to reason that, you know, since Beretta did such a nice job, I would like this one as well. So overall, the PMXs is a 9mm PCC that I can really get behind. I really like this firearm for about $1,300 for just the basic black one. That's not horribly priced, and maybe those prices will fluctuate some depending on what the market will bear. Typically, MSRP is slightly higher than what you can actually buy it for at your local gun shop. So shop around if you're looking for one. I can't really say that it's one of those 9mm that has really any issues. We had no malfunctions with it. It's very easy. It's easy to take apart. It's a little bit challenging to put back together. There's a little nuanced bit to it, trying to get the pins and everything to line up, but it's not impossible. It's a very, very easy gun to use. It's very accurate. I've been out here shooting out to 200 yards with this little guy, and we have some pretty high wind conditions, and I've been getting some hits, and that's just using the MRO red dot sight that's on it. So very, very practical little gun if you want a 9mm type truck gun or something like that. Now, I know a lot of you guys in the comments are going to blow up and say, oh, 9mm PCCs are just dumb. They have no use. I would disagree with that, but you're also talking to a guy that likes 300 blackout quite a bit. So if you're looking for something like this, you might want to check them out, because there are a lot of guns out there, but not all of them are going to rise to the quality of this particular Beretta. Beretta is known for making a very high quality product, and the PMXs is certainly no different. If you guys have any questions about this particular firearm, I try to stick around a few days after I post a video to answer any questions you guys may have in the comments down below. If you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms channel to become part of our Patreon family, you can get direct access to me. I answer all private communications. You'll get early access to videos and things like that. So there's a link to Patreon in the video description below. If you would like to support us here on YouTube in the age of demonetization, you got the little subscribe and join button, or a thanks and subscribe button underneath the video player you're watching right now. You can hit either one of those buttons and help support us right here on YouTube. Last but not least, please swing by, check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 16 years of support, and let's do a little bit of shooting on our way out. Wow, it's a nice little smudge down there at 100 yards on the challenge target. Pretty darn accurate. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll talk to you soon.